Hello there, beloved saints. You guys know, growing up, I had a lot of paranormal, supernatural stuff going on. I've shared about it in the past. As I grew up and I moved to Hollywood, I was a independent film producer, and I worked with some amazing people. But during that time, I had fallen away from the faith I'd grown up in and was into the occult, and I could read tarot cards, all kinds of stuff. I had somewhat of a sight because as a child, I had the sight. Literally, I could see spirit visibly with my eyeballs. And so, because of this, I was tormented. Now, this particular entity that dwelled in the house I grew up in a huge house. It was down south. It's a bad neighborhood now. It declined after, once I grew up. But at the time, it was a lower middle class neighborhood. Nice, lots of kids everywhere, right? And it was a perfect place to grow up. We had a big backyard and such. But it was built in the 1800s. And it was down the street. You could see it from my yard. The very large and ancient Cedar Hill Cemetery, where a lot of Civil War soldiers and officers were buried. It was a city block away from Riddick's Folly, which was a huge Civil War hospital here in Virginia. And the last words of those dying soldiers are still on the wall to this day. So I used to dig up things from the Civil War. I'd find old bullet casings. I even found bullets that were petrified. They had turned to rock. I used to find little metal pieces that held the soldiers' patches and guns together, things for their belt. I even found a metal lantern holder. All kinds of stuff digging in my backyard. So, a lot of history there. And I didn't see the face of this entity until I was about 11. But I did visibly see some of the entity, and I'll tell you just that portion. Now, when I was older, I guess I was in high school, so I was probably 14 or 15. My neighbor, friend of mine, had their little cousin visiting, and she came over and wanted to play with me and some kids. Well, some kids, really, my sister and stuff. But I was there, and she went to our front door, and there's an entryway, there's a hallway. And at one time, my dad had made our house because when I was in high school, the upstairs was a part of our whole house. And so I had the upstairs to myself. I had a huge walk down bathroom, a sunroom, and my bedroom. But it was really haunted up there. I mean, stuff would move, I'd bargain with it. Don't scratch my records, and I'll play Beethoven. Like I did everything I could. But this little girl walks into the entryway. Now, the upstairs is here. And when I was a kid, we made the upstairs a separate apartment my dad would rent to friends of his, right? Or my mom's friends. Because there's a separate door up there you can enter, and it's a whole apartment with kitchen and everything. But I stayed up there as a teenager. Um, and at this time, I was downstairs. The whole family was downstairs. My sister had not been born when I'm going to tell you the thing. First time I saw the entity, I was 4, and but this little girl, when I was 14, stops right at the front. So there's the entryway, the stairs here to the left, and then the entrance to the downstairs to the right. And this is where she is this entryway. They're called foyers here in the South. We have foyer, you know. And so it would have like the old antique trunk that lifted, the seat lifted, and you could put storage there. And it had a hat rack on both sides and a big mirror. That took up most of the hallway there. But she enters the foyer and stops and starts trembling. Turns around and runs like her pants were on fire. So about an hour passes. I'm like, is she coming back? Is she all right? I go over there and I ask her mom. I was like, she was supposed to come over and play with some kids at the house. And she just left. Is she all right? Is she feeling all right? She said, ma'am, you lived in that house long? And I said, yes, ma'am, my whole life, since I can remember, so I was like 2 or 3. And she said, well, I don't want to frighten you, but my daughter has the vision. And when she walked into your foyer, she saw an entity. And I said, what do you mean an entity? I was young. She goes, I won't tell you what he looked like. If I told you what he looked like, you'd never sleep in that house again. And she said, my daughter will never step foot in that home. And that's all she told me. So thanks for clearing that up. I feel great. Good night. I'm going to go sleep now by myself upstairs. So I knew one form of the entity, at least, what he looked like, because he had tormented me in my sleep. In my dreams, he'd come into my dreams. They were lucid dreams, showed himself to me. Let me tell you what else. He would give me nightmares that God had forsaken me, that he was going to leave me and my dad here and take my mom and everybody else because we were just too bad. See, that's how I know these dreams are demonic. These people, oh, I got left behind and the Lord told me to tell the saints. They're going to be, and I was like, that is not from the Lord. That is not from the Lord. Because Jesus doesn't leave parts of his body. He's faithful. But see, Satan only has deception. And if we're not clued in to the scriptures and understand our identity in Christ, we're already seated in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus. I've already passed from death to life. And I love how Dr. Yankee Arnold says, I couldn't go to hell if I tried. And it's true. I can't. Because I am immortal now. He's given me a spirit. That spirit is immortal. It's eternal. And when this dead body falls off of me, I'm going to step in to eternity, and he's giving me a new one, a new literal physical body. That's what's promised. Jesus had a physical body, flesh and bone. So it's beautiful. But that's just a little bit of it. As we go on, and I'll do these videos, I'll just take my time. I will probably tell a story or two on a video of some of the nightmares, some of the appearances of this demonic thing. It does appear as dead people. Um, they're not dead people. These demons are familiar spirits, and they take on the identity of familiars, hoping that will let them in. That's why I warn people that are newly lost someone. That's the time. Demons are evil. They attack when you're at your weakest, and it's cruel and it's wrong and it's not fair. But that's when they attack to weaken you, or hoping that you will mistake them for someone you love and give them permission. So it's very cruel to take on the appearance and talk like someone that is deceased, that someone is grieving so terribly. But I warn people to look for that when they've had a lost loved one, because we have all victory in the Lord. There's nothing to fear. But I just want people aware. So let me tell you the first time I saw this entity visibly wide awake with my eyes. And my mom knows I was awake because she had just tucked me in bed. So I was 4. This time my sister was not yet born. My brother had just died. He was born a baby and he was just too sickly. I almost died. I weighed 5 pounds and lost to 4 pounds overnight. They had already planned my funeral and everything. So I'm not lying about that. My dad even says I can't think about it. I can't think about losing her again. Like, it devastated my mom and dad. And so I was very loved. I really was. I had a tough life later on. But when I was very little, I was a good kid. I was a good child, except I put my socks in the refrigerator because my feet were hot. My mom says, why are your socks in the refrigerator on top of a bowl of gravy? My feet were hot. She still remembers that. I wanted to cool my socks off. Oh, funny. I digress. Anyway, I was going to bed. Now, my room was right off. We had a kitchenette, and it was like an L-shaped kitchen, and my dad had built this little, almost like a picnic table. It had the 2 benches and the wood in the middle off to the side. And to the left there was a tiny room, and I had a little twin bed in there. And right next to me, off the dining room, was my mom and dad's room. So there was a door connecting my room to my mom and dad's, but it was always kept closed and there was a dresser behind it, so you couldn't go back and forth, right? You had to go back around into the kitchen, through the dining room, into their room. So mom tucks me into bed, gives me a kiss, and I get my whatever I was holding, my Patty Sally doll or whatever it was, and my kitty cat, and she went on to bed. Now, from the time she goes out of my room, just make that little U to go into hers. She had probably just put one foot in, maybe was getting comfortable. She hears a blood curdling scream from me. I was wide awake. There's no way I'm asleep. She just put me there and had just walked to her room. She hadn't even, like, maybe got her other foot in by then. I'm talking, that's how fast it was. And I remember a scream like no other. Terror. When you see the supernatural, I don't care oh, you were probably asleep and thought you were awake, or you were just seeing things, or you mistook a shadow. No, honey. Nobody will ever tell you what you didn't see. I know it to this day. I saw it. What I saw was this. I'm laying in bed, my eyes are shut. I'm holding whatever stuffed thing I happen to be talking to for the day, and I hear this. Right in front of my face. It's like I could feel the air from the hands. Dead silence, and I open my eyes up. And then I see a green glow, like a neon, otherworldly green. I mean, I can almost say it looked like the Ghostbusters ghost. I'm not kidding. It sounds silly, but I'm telling you, they're onto something there. And when I talked to my sister-in-law, she had seen a horse and carriage and a man driving it down her street, which was a highway now, and it was glowing green. And it couldn't hear, I believe it was residual, that it was a cross in time. Same place, different time, like a time slip or something. But she said, Jesus, Jesus, opened her eyes and it was gone. So she saw it. Now she blinked and it was still there. And she blinked and it was still there. And then she prayed and she couldn't see it anymore. But it really was this glowing green. Then I heard Ellie Marzulli say that when this alien, Thor, valiant Thor, he claimed to be a Venusian from Venus, when he called someone on the phone, the whole room turned that shade of green, and he didn't know what that meant. And I think it means you're shifting dimensions. Maybe it has something to do with the spirit realm. So I know Valiant Thor is a fallen angel or some kind of demonic entity. All of these things in the sky you see, they're the host of heaven. That's all they are. So I hear just like that. Open my eyes. There's a green glow around, and I see before me, inches from my face, from the wrist up, cut off at the wrist, just two disembodied hands in the air. Just, they clapped. I could see their hands like that. It's freaky, okay? To a 4-year-old that knows, they ain't supposed to be there, right? And this is, I'm fitting to tell y'all. That's what we say down south when we're going to tell you something for real. I'm fitting to tell you. I'm fixing to tell you. Next thing, that was the worst thing, was this. And I told you, I saw this entity in at least one form when I got older. As we go, as I said, I'll tell you more of these instances since I grew up in a haunted home. Next thing that happened, still see the green hands, wide awake. My mom literally just went into the other, no way I was asleep from the few seconds it took her to go around to there. She knew I was wide awake. I hear, hey, Renee. Say my name. Renee, hey. That's when Mama heard me scream. She comes running in there. I don't know what I told her. I don't know what I told her. Isn't going, isn't, and then the hands, and then the, okay. I'm sure it wasn't real clear. But she, and I told her, I don't remember what I told her. Two glowing hands are floating in the air. I don't know what I told her. She believed me. See, my mother knew the house was haunted. That thing had appeared as her best friend. We don't know if it was her best friend or the entity on the day she died. But could have been her best friend, because if she died that day and just walked in, didn't say anything, and left, it could have been her. I don't know. But I don't believe in ghosts just like hanging out around the place. When people just die, maybe they're, doing their thing. They might stop by or something. But no, I don't believe anybody's left here. We are absent from the body and present with the Lord. So, anyway, that's what I saw. Now, I've drawn some sketches up, and I fed them to the AI, and the AI took my instruction and changed the sketches to present this little picture to you. And after you hear that little story, I will post some videos of hands, disembodied hands that are on people's faces, tapping on their shoulder, behind a fish tank, just hands, nothing attached to them. And I'm telling you, it's evil. It's evil. Creepy, too. So, on my Paranormal Through the Biblical Eye channel, I believed that there was a place that needed to be set up to answer these phenomena through biblical eyes. I do have a very, very strong overall education in occult practices of Palamambe and Santeria and voodoo and Crowleyan magic and Enochian magic and witchcraft in general. So I do know a lot of the principles of it, and I can usually spot things and see through some of these things and discern what they really are. So I think it's a good place to start. I've just started that channel to look at this supernatural through a biblical eye and discern what the truth is behind some of these lying signs and wonders, as well as just some of the rampant paranormal activity, hauntings, infestations, oppressions, and even possessions. So I hope you enjoy this compilation, but I hope it informs and educates many to not play around, or as the Bible says, what is it invade those places, puffed up in their natural minds, going places that they know not. Like they don't understand the spirit realm. They shouldn't be playing in that. So puffed up in their fleshly minds is what it says. So I will put these up, and thanks for watching. God bless.
talking to ghosts.
What?
He just said the boy's in here. Since he's still a fetus, I really didn't understand what he meant.
Watch what happens next.
Bro, right above you. What is that? On the wall.
I must be tripping because it seems like he doesn't even see it.
Oh, do you see that? What? Bro. What?
Alright guys, got some new fish. Pretty big tank as well. There's currently 2 black ones, 2 gold ones. I've called them Goldie number 2, a black one, and if you guys have any suggestions for names that... What the f... What the f... Alright guys, got some new fish. Pretty big tank as well. There's currently 2 black ones, 2 gold ones. I've called them Goldie number 2, a black one, and if you guys have any suggestions for names that... What the f... What the f...
Hola gente, otra vez el ruido ese. Poco estoy haciendo compañía hoy, pero ya estoy sola. Todo el día se escucha el ruido de abajo y la verdad que no sé. Ay, la contra, el olor a algo ahí. Sora. Sora, subí. Ay, no, Dios santo. Nera. Hola gente, otra vez el ruido ese. Poco estoy haciendo compañía hoy, pero ya estoy sola. Todo el día se escucha el ruido de abajo y la verdad que no sé. Ay, la contra, el olor a algo ahí. Sora. Sora, subí. Ay, no, Dios santo.
Stop! Leave. Stop. You gotta go. Shh, 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 shh. Calm down. What are you? Stop!